some teaching around that. We'll have a look at Newtonian physics and quantum mechanics and the difference between those two. And then we'll do our workbook lesson. And that will hopefully lead us nicely into some text if we have time. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. So if you can read that that headline quote for us, just make it a bit bigger if you like, from Isaac Newton, one of the most famous scientists in history.
Yeah. I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. Yeah.
Isaac Newton, who discovered the laws that seem to govern the physical universe, which have come to be known as Newtonian physics. Seemingly fundamental laws that have really, they were the foundation of the scientific and industrial revolution that happened at that time, around the 1600s when Newton lived. All of our modern science and the way of thinking were predicated on this idea that somehow there's an objective reality outside of us. That's what Newton's laws seem to say, that these laws work irrespective of the observer. So it doesn't matter what you do or say, the laws continue. They're kind of constants. And this was the prevailing scientific wisdom for about 300 years after Newton. Still, many scientists still thinking this way, even though in the early 1900s, quantum mechanics came along and really turned that on its head. But it's interesting because you look at this quote, this was Newton's own words about his life's work, really. Towards the end of his life, he was reflecting on his life and his accomplishments, and really saying that he was clueless, ignorant of the truth, that he didn't really get it. Most people don't know that he had a very strong interest in alchemy. So he was, on the one hand, professor at Cambridge and publishing these groundbreaking papers, and became probably the most famous scientist of his generation and of all time. That's sort of the one side. But then the other, the sort of more hidden side, the esoteric side, was all done in relative secrecy. That wasn't publicized. That was his private life. But obviously that meant a lot to him. And this quote is coming from that side. As the alchemist, he would have understood that what he'd done had just really, he was just fooling around with pebbles on the shore when this great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. So it's quite a humble statement on one's life work. So clearly he knew that he hadn't really scratched the surface. Because if we're truly honest, when we think we know the truth already or can find it in the trivial pursuits the world offers us, our minds cannot be open to this great ocean of truth.
Bit like Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, he was the same, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, these great minds, they start realizing the limits of their own intellect at some point. And they stretch into the reaches of the unknown, and they realize, there's so much we don't know. There's so much the world and the scientific theory of it that actually we don't know and that doesn't make sense. And so, they humble. The more they learn, the more they go, actually, I don't know anything. Anthony Hopkins, another great, not a scientist, but very successful in his field of acting.
Yes.
Said at 82, well, I just realized that I know nothing. Having, had a whole lifetime and all this success and accolades, and he's like, I actually don't really know anything. So this is what it means to be humble. He who humbles himself will be made great. Actually, I don't know of myself. The truth is way beyond my intellectual mind and any attempts that I may make to try and frame it and understand it. This is what these great minds, come to intuit. So related to this, I was listening to a talk about quantum fields, which is a science that says exactly the opposite of what Newton postulated, which is that they are objective fixed physical laws governing a reality that operates independently of the observer who's seemingly subject to these laws. And so Newtonian physics really says we're individuals. We have no impact on these laws. They apply, irrespective. And then along came this science in the early 1900s that turned it completely on its head. Turns this fundamental premise that underlies all of Newtonian physics on its head by showing that essentially there is no reality in the absence of observation. So observation creates reality. That's the interpretation. Scientists would say, well, that's an interpretation of it. Yes, it is. But it's interesting now in science, we're talking about interpretation, not fact anymore. It's the interpretation of the results of the experiments that they've got. And that interpretation is commonly known as the Copenhagen interpretation. It's the most common interpretation. Really saying that reality is and the observer are not separate. That's what quantum mechanics says. There are other interpretations, but that's the most commonly accepted one. And it's the one that makes the most sense to me, because some of the others go into wild alternate realities, the many worlds theory, multiple dimensions, and of what practical use is that? It's interesting intellectual speculation, but actually this interpretation is the most practically useful, because really what they're saying is what the spiritual masters and mystics have been saying for thousands of years. The same idea, isn't it? And this is a scientific path rather than an overtly spiritual path.
Mm.
And so many so-called New Age teachers and teachings have latched onto quantum mechanics over the last 50 odd years to support their theories related to how manifestation works and attract more followers. It's all quantum, and you've probably heard quantum reality and a quantum mindset, and etc. But the truth is that even this quantum world is still part of an illusory projection of the mind we call the physical universe. Quantum mechanics is really, just saying what the mystics have said for thousands of years. It's an illusion. There is no absolute fixed reality. It's entirely perceptual. It's in the eye and the mind of the observer that reality exists, and that's its only reality. What does that really mean? It means there's no fundamental reality. It's completely perceptual. It's changeable depending on the person's perception. Therefore, how real is it? Therefore, it's an illusion. Again, many scientists would go, well, that's, a huge stretch of the interpretation. But, if you're honest and you have the spiritual side as well, you see, well, they're really saying the same thing. So science and spirituality start to merge at the highest level into one singular truth, what they're telling us about the world. So seeking to explain so-called reality according to its laws, quantum mechanics. Now we're talking about not Newtonian physics, which scientists have been trying to do since its formulation 100 years ago, is just more playing the same pebbles and shells on the shore of time and space to distract from the great ocean of truth that lies dormant and undiscovered within them and everyone. So the same thing actually applies, although quantum mechanics points us to the truth. It's still not the truth. It's just a getting a bit closer to the nature of the truth. And Niels Bohr was one of the founders of quantum mechanics, a Danish physicist, who made these foundational contributions to quantum theory, said, anyone who's not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it. Shocked was the word. Because what it's saying is that the world is an illusion. The world's false. And everything that you think is happening and everything you believe is just happening in your mind. There is no reality in the absence of your observation of it. So how can you then say that it's real? This is the full implication of quantum mechanics. That's why he said what he said, which very few people, even scientists, would understand. So to go back to the talk that I mentioned earlier about quantum theory, the most significant thing that the professor of theoretical physics giving the talk in Cambridge said in an hour was this, right? It was a very quick sentence. He didn't dwell on this. And I had to, go back and record it and go, okay, and just listen again a couple of times to get this. But this is what he said, almost verbatim. Do you want to read that, right?
Yeah. We don't understand it at all how the physical universe, started. We don't understand what kicked it all off at time t equals 0.
It's quite a stunning admission, right? So this is a guy at the top of his game, professor of theoretical physics at Cambridge University, one of the world's leading universities. He understands as much as science currently understands about the origin of the universe and the way it works. And he's really saying we don't have a clue. We don't understand at all what kicked it all off. So as Rupert Sheldrake, when he critiques this, says, science says, well, just give us one free miracle, which is that all matter and energy and everything that we can see, feel, touch, and that we perceive as reality came into existence in one blinding explosion called the Big Bang. And we have no idea how that happened, why that happened. We can't explain that at all. But we assume that it did happen, and then we proceed from there. And then we'll explain how, from that point of the Big Bang, the universe cooled and expanded, and that's science. Science is answering the question how it all happened post time t equals 0. But at time t equals 0, science can't tell us anything, as he's saying. And why is that? Because time t equals 0 is eternity. That's the timeless state, isn't it? There's no time. So none of the laws of physics or quantum mechanics or any construct apply. This was before science, before mathematics, before any of this came into seeming existence. And science has no clue. So they're saying, when it comes to fundamental reality, before time and space, beyond time and space, we have no idea. That's the admission. And any physicist would have to admit the same, because they don't. Which means they're no more qualified in that domain than you or me, are they? All of their science doesn't help them.
No. Yeah.
Which is kind of quite humbling, isn't it? It's like, well, all of our science can't really help us in that domain. We're as qualified as any layman in the street, despite the fact that we might have a 10-year degree and a 20, 30-year academic career studying, advanced theoretical physics. And, we're very clever. We can do all the mathematical equations. But at that point of time t equals 0, none of that helps us at all. In fact, it's a hindrance, because our mind's so filled with all the equations and the models and the theories, that we can't maybe access that reality experientially, which is what the mystics have done throughout time. They've gone into time t equals 0, and they've had an actual experience of what that feels like. And then they come back from that state and they go, well, there is another reality, guys, because I've experienced it beyond time and space. But David Tong clearly wasn't there because he didn't pause for breath, and he just hurried on. He didn't say, well, actually, that's really interesting. Why don't we just pause there and explore this great unknown domain of time t equals 0 for a bit and consider that? It was one sentence, and then he hurried on, as Churchill once said, most men stumble over the truth from time to time, but they hurry off. They pick themselves up and hurry off as if nothing had ever happened. That's exactly what he did. Stumbled over a truth and just glossed over it, and then continued on down the same scientific track, because that's the way his mind has been programmed to think for his adult life. Since he started probably studying this stuff seriously at 17, 18, he went to university. It's a program. And so, he's just running that program and then, can't see outside of that. The goal of quantum physicists is now to understand the physical universe better. This is what he's saying. So our goal is to understand it better. We need to refine the standard model, they call it, which is a model that tries to explain the universe in an equation. And they're looking for what Einstein's looking for. It's a grand unified theory that unifies the 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and then there's a strong and weak nuclear forces. So those are the 4 fundamental forces. And science is the kind of holy grail of science, is to find one theory that unifies them all, and they kind of find one force that transcends them and that you can explain all of them in. And as yet, they haven't found that. Einstein dedicated the last 20 odd years of his life to that quest, and he failed. And I suspect every scientist who ever attempts it will fail, because how can you find a grand unified theory within the construct of separation, which is designed by the ego to perpetuate separation? You won't. You're looking in the wrong place for it. You see the problem. You'll never find grand unity in the construct of separation. You'll only find it by going beyond separation, which is exactly what this quote points to. At time t equals 0, you go beyond separation. You go beyond having to reconcile these forces within the construct of separation, and you can have a direct experience of that which existed prior to all of this, eternity. So I've included the talk because you might find it interesting if you want to understand more about quantum mechanics and science.
Mm-hmm.
And then, listen out for it. It's towards the end, about 40 odd minutes into the talk. He mentions this and just really doesn't even pause for breath and just carries on. And, if you didn't know this teaching, then probably most of the audience didn't even think twice about that oversight. They wouldn't have even picked up. Hang on, you just stumbled over a massive truth here and just completely glossed over it and ignored it and carried on down the same track. You see how the mind gets into a pattern of thinking. Now you start pursuing the standard model and you start looking for a grand unified theory, and what you seek, you will try and find. And so you're seeking within the illusion to find the truth. Do you see the problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, you have to look outside of that. So why do seemingly highly intelligent people like Isaac Newton, David Tong, and there's many other, these scientists are incredibly bright people in some ways. If you're doing theoretical physics or quantum mechanics or whatever, these are smart people intellectually. And yet there's something missing, because that's very smartness makes them blind to maybe an obvious truth, because they'll just overlook it because they're too smart. Their minds are too wired into that way of thinking and the complexity of it and all the equations and trying to find the models. And the very essence of the truth is that it's so simple that anyone can understand it if they will it,
Mm. Mm.
because it's oneness. It's so simple.
Yeah. I suppose once you've experienced it, then you know it. So like you experienced it, and all of these other people, they know it.
But you have to be open to the idea of it first. I didn't know it experientially to start with, but there was something in me that said, well, maybe we don't really know. Maybe these theories of science aren't actually correct.
Mm.
Maybe they
Oh
don't
yeah, I'm
actually
at that level. Yes.
explain.
Yeah.
Because
Mm.
I used to be very much a scientific materialist. I remember when I was growing up in my teens, and I was like, no, science is the way. Religion is clearly delusional and fictitious, and it doesn't really mean anything. Because I just couldn't buy into the idea that the world was created in 7 days, and that
Yeah,
dinosaurs
it's
were put on
shot
Earth
up
by
in the
God to
sky. Yeah.
test us. And I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of stuff's just ludicrous. It was clearly, quite
Silly.
if you hold to the literal the literal nature of the Bible, then you can't really defend it. I mean, clearly the world wasn't created in 7 days, and clearly it's a lot older than the Bible tells us. They're saying it's only a few thousand years old. I mean, clearly that's not the case. They found fossils that are hundreds of millions of years old, and they've carbon dated rocks to billions of years old. I mean, like, so
Mm.
so it was a part of I guess my evolution. I'm like going, okay, that traditional religious model is BS. That's clearly not the truth.
Mm.
Science maybe has access to some deeper insights about how the world really works. So you start going down that track. And then at some point you see the limitations of science, and you go, well, even that doesn't, it can maybe give us a good picture of the universe, the physical universe, but it doesn't explain what's beyond it. It doesn't explain how it all happened, and it doesn't explain why it happened. So it doesn't really answer the question of meaning and purpose. That's a philosophical question, not a scientific question. So we have to go beyond, the domain of science, the how to asking tough questions of why, which then, you in the domain of philosophy, and the scientist has no more qualifications at that level than anyone else. Because science can't, they might have a scientific perspective on why, but science doesn't give us the answer to why. Science doesn't give us the meaning for the universe. In fact, it tends to predicate some kind of meaningless universe. So, well, it's all just kind of random bits of matter strung together. At the extreme of the scientific materialist paradigm, they say there is no consciousness other than what's in the brain. Your consciousness is a product of brain function, which is kind of an accidental product of all of the biochemistry mixing together. And then, when the brain dies, the body and the consciousness dies, and that's it. That's sort of the extreme of the scientific materialist paradigm. But somehow we go, can't be correct, because how do you explain then how this all came about? Surely there must have been some consciousness behind it, some intelligent design, or some design. As you start going more into it, you see it's not perhaps an intelligent design, it's actually an insane design, but there's some design behind it. So there must be some consciousness that pre-existed form and matter. Surely, that's the logical argument, which means that, the position that consciousness is created by the matter, by the brain, has to be ridiculous. Consciousness preceded that. In fact, consciousness created matter and the brain and the body. And this is kind of what the scientists are scared of. Well, now you're in the domain of consciousness, which you can't really model. There's no equations for it. The science breaks down. They can't describe consciousness in precise mathematical terms. This, by the way, is called the hard problem of science, what I've just described. Did consciousness create matter? Did matter create consciousness? And there's still no resolution. Many scientists believe that consciousness is a product of matter, of brain function. Even though they're seemingly highly intelligent, they still believe that, which is a ridiculous proposition when you look at it holistically. I mean, as Yeshua said, you think that your brain can think. You know, this is as silly as thinking that you when you light a match, you have the power of the sun. He uses some ridiculous analogy to go, you know, this is just as foolish a belief. Like, how can you believe that the brain can think? When you understand the true nature of mind, then you know that becomes a ridiculous idea. The brain is the hardware that allows us to interact in this world and perceive this world. It's part of the hardware of the body that gives us an experience in this world, but it's not the source of thought. Thought is beyond the brain and the body. And that's something that many scientists still haven't accepted. They still think that it's somehow rooted in the body, that we're bound to the body. And that's because the unknown is scary to the ego, which is just their belief in separation and their related sense of being a separate self. So that if people have egos, which they do, then there is going to be this separate self that is going to defend itself, and it doesn't want to know the truth. It can only preserve itself by overlooking the truth. And so that's, you know, that's why you can't remove the observer from all this. Because the scientists might be observing this and they say they're objective and independent, but they're not, because they have an ego, a sense of self, and that's gonna influence their perceptions. So the truth would undo their belief in separation's existence in their mind and their associated belief that they are a separate self. And therefore, they will find a way to avoid that, and they will justify that in terms of their science. And say, well, science says this and science says that. But if you're willing to go beyond that defense, you see that actually it's just another defense against the truth. When you come to know this great ocean of truth that lies beyond the known theory seeking to explain this universe and what seems to happen in it, then we'll all cease to exist as an apparently separate entity. There will be no individual person. There'll be no need for science. You know, all of these intellectual pursuits just cease, because once you know the truth, there's nothing else to know. That's knowledge. And that's game over for the ego. So the reason we read and practice the mind training exercises in the course is that we need to undo our massive unconscious resistance to the truth, to allow it to reveal itself little by little to our confused and deluded minds. They convince themselves that this universe, based on made-up false laws, is reality. To perpetuate our belief in an equally false self-concept, which is our ego. That's all it is, a false individual separate self-concept that's completely based on our belief in separation. You can only believe that you're a separate self if you believe in separation. And everyone is so bound up in that belief, including scientists and people who otherwise, you know, seemingly very smart, that they're actually not smart. They're stupid, because they can't see beyond the construct of that belief. It's only the, you know, spiritually awakening people that can start to transcend the limits of that construct. And we've seen that in people like Isaac Newton and Einstein and so on, that they did start to transcend it. You know, they didn't maybe fully do that and fully wake up in their lifetimes, but they started to question the very science that they'd helped create, because they could see the limits of it. So we can learn a lot from them and learn to be, you know, open, and that there is possibly a truth that's beyond time and space, that's beyond models, that can only be known experientially. And that, you know, by practicing as we do, we are opening ourselves to that experience, which in the East they call samadhi, Yeshua calls it revelation, a state of pure formless awareness, as we call it in alternative language, in which there is no awareness of time and space. So there's no sense of passing time, of linear time, of change, and there's no sense of space, because in that time, in that state, you're not in the physical body. You're just in a timeless, infinite state of mind. which has been called many things. Said samadhi, revelation, nirvana, by various teachers and traditions over the ages. So I've included a podcast where we explored this idea of samadhi and how to experience it for you. So watch or listen to that. Definitely worth diving in to the subject. And the main thing is, Elaine, whenever you practice any meditation or any spiritual practice, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm open to this experience. I'm open to the samadhi experience. It may not happen straight away. I don't know when it's going to happen, but every time I practice, I'm opening my mind to an alternative reality. And if you keep doing that, at some point, that reality reveals itself more and more. It might just be a little glimpse of, an ecstatic state or some bliss. It might be an insight. It might be a prolonged period of revelation or samadhi where you just drop in and, you can disappear for hours into it. I had an experience of maybe 5 minutes of that, maybe less. I don't know. I'll never know how long that was because there was no time. There's no sense of passing time. So it could have been 5 seconds. It could have been 5 minutes. I don't know. I have some idea of the time because when I came out of it, there was a bell that was ringing to bring us into the next meditation session that hadn't rung yet. So, I had an idea that it wasn't hours. But in that state, there's no sense of passing time. So one doesn't know at all. So explore that. There's definitely some insight and wisdom there for you in that recorded session. So that brings us nicely into our text reading for today. Okay, so let's read this. So if you can, Elaine, if you can read the original.
Yeah.
Actually, I've translated it. Sorry about that. So I'll just do it here. I'm spirit.
Yeah. I am spirit. I am Son of God. Nobody can contain my spirit, nor impose on me a limitation God created not. Alternatively, I am pure formless awareness. I am the extension of pure formless awareness. Nobody can contain my pure formless awareness, nor impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware.
Yeah. So pretty, simple what he's saying. This isn't, as I said, it's not complex, is it?
No.
You don't need fancy models and scientific equations. If I am spirit, and we translate spirit as I am pure formless awareness. That's what spirit means in alternative language. Then I'm an awareness beyond the body. Pure formless awareness implies no body, no form, and that there's an awareness that exists that is beyond the body. And this, of course, solves the hard problem of consciousness. Saying, well, there's an awareness, we call it, rather than consciousness, because we use consciousness in a specific way to denote a separated consciousness, the ego's consciousness. But whatever you call it, there is an awareness or a consciousness or a mind that is beyond the body. This is what he's saying. Nobody can contain my pure formless awareness. How can pure formless awareness be contained in form? It wouldn't be pure formless awareness then, would it? So the value of translating these terms is that it becomes very clear what is actually true and what's not. If spirit is pure formless awareness, and you say spirit can be contained in a body, then clearly you're contradicting the very nature of spirit, which is pure formless awareness. There is no form to it. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Whereas the word spirit, because it's not explicitly saying no body, has been misused. People talk about mind, body, and spirit. That I'm both mind, I'm all three. I'm mind, I'm body, and I'm spirit, and somehow that can all kind of reconcile. But if you understand spirit as pure formless awareness, then the body can't reconcile with pure formless awareness, because it wouldn't be pure formless awareness. The formless gives the game away, doesn't it? So that's why the translations can be very helpful in really understanding what this means. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Rather than just I am spirit. A lot of people might say that and they go, oh, that sounds nice, but what does that even mean? What does spirit mean? And most people don't really know what spirit means. It's one of those words that we kind of, okay, it's some kind of out there, you know, it's presence, it's up there, it's out there, it doesn't necessarily have a form. But then, you know, we forget that and we'll say, oh, well, my spirit is housed in my body. I've heard that argument by many people. You know, your soul or your spirit is in your body, and without the body, then the spirit can't incarnate, and the spirit wants an existence in this world, and all kinds of false ideas can enter. And this is just clarifying all this, you know, the simple statement, I am spirit, or I am pure formless awareness. There can be no body, clearly. I can't be a body and pure formless awareness, because they contradict each other. Form contradicts the formless awareness, which then means you've got to choose. You know, that leads straight into the non-dual teaching of, well, you can't have both. You know, you have to choose. So I was listening to two quite respected teachers, non-dual teachers, talking. A guy called Rupert Spira, and Francis, I'm not sure what his surname is. But they never really resolved this. They were talking about non-duality, and Francis had a background in science, and then the interviewer said, well, you know, so what about the hard problem of consciousness? And what about what the neuroscientists say about consciousness, that it's a product of brain function? And he didn't really resolve it. He said, well, that's science's domain. You know, give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and we'll leave that to science. And then, you know, non-duality belongs to God. And that's kind of separate. And so now what you still have is a split. There's no resolution. Well, you've got kind of a segmented reality where, well, that seems to exist, and that contradicts non-duality, God, and somehow those are kept apart. And that's sort of okay, he was saying. You just carry on like that. Well, not really, because you haven't resolved the split in your mind, have you? Clearly, there's a contradiction between them. And if you bring them together, you can't make sense of both at the same time. You know, one of them is going to be false and one's going to be true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so this is what authentic non-duality really is. It's like, bring the two together, bring pure non-duality into any kind of dualistic teaching, and you see that there's a fundamental conflict. They can't reconcile. So then you must choose between them. One is true and one is false. This is what Yeshua is saying to us. You must choose. You won't resolve the problem, the hard problem of consciousness and all the other problems that are related, until you bring those two together. You see very clearly that they cannot be reconciled. And then you make your choice. Or which reality do I want? Because I can't have both of them, because they contradict each other. And that's pure, that will lead you to pure non-dualism, pure non-duality, which denies all duality. Pure non-dual says everything else is illusion, it's Maya, samsara, illusion, whatever words you want to use. None of it exists, and we're not going to try and maintain its existence any longer in our minds. It will seem to continue to exist as long as I'm seemingly human and operating in this world. But in my mind, I don't have to give it any belief and any faith. And that pure non-dual attitude is what non-duality really means. Otherwise, you're just in duality. You haven't really resolved it. You might be studying a non-dual teaching, but you still entertain dualistic ideas, in which case you're not purely non-dual, are you? So what the Course does is it helps us to bring these two opposite thought systems, the egos and the Holy Spirits, together and make a clear choice, and then enter into the domain of pure non-duality, which is where all the mystics and the highest teachers went. The Buddha and Yeshua and others Ramana Maharshi went into that pure non-dual state, and they experienced it. And they came back from that state and then could speak from an experiential point of view and say there is actually this other reality because I've experienced it and I know it experientially. And they have communicated this highest truth and wisdom to humanity for the benefit of the rest of us to learn it. To learn that we are just pure formless awareness of perfect love and nothing else. Nothing else really exists. So that means that all these other theories and models and the entirety of science, whether it's Newtonian physics or it's quantum mechanics or it's any other branch of science, disappears. It just doesn't exist anymore. That's what pure non-duality requires, which some people would say is too radical because they want to kind of keep both realities alive, but that's the only resolution of the problem. And until you're willing to go there and accept that no matter how much you try, you will never reconcile the irreconcilable, you will not make spiritual progress. You'll just be caught up in the compromise of a dualistic thought system and have no clear direction, which means that you'll just carry on in the dream for the rest of your life. And because your mind hasn't been healed, you come back and you have another dream lifetime in another body, another incarnation. All right, so quite a lot to talk about in just a short sentence, but it's a very deep teaching, isn't it? As a teaching, what I find with the Course, because it's so rigorous, and he tells us over and over, you can't reconcile these. It takes you beyond even some of these advanced teachers, because they weren't saying. I listened to our podcast. And I'm like, well, it isn't really pure non-dualism. You've ended up on a dualistic note of like, well, you leave unto Caesar what is Caesar's and leave unto God what is God's, and we'll keep that duality going. Well, that's not any resolution, is it? Really, of the problem. You really want to resolve it in your own mind, then you have to make a clear choice, which is exactly what Yeshua's teaching us to do by practicing these lessons. I am pure formless awareness, full stop. Not I am pure formless awareness, and I'm also a bit of body thrown in there. No, I am pure formless awareness, full stop, end of, very clear cut. Then you're entering into the domain of pure non-dualism. Okay, so that leads us into the next one of our review lessons. You can read that in the original and the alternative kindly.
Yeah. I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. What can my function be but to accept the word of God, who has created me for what I am and will forever be? Alternatively, I accept my part in perfect love's plan for awakening. What can my function be but to accept the message of perfect love, which has extended me as I truly am and will forever be?
Yeah. So what's he saying in that one?
Just once we accept our perfect love's plan for awakening, then this is who we truly are and always will be.
Yeah. Perfect love's plan is simply to awaken to the absolute ultimate truth of who we are. Perfect love's plan is not for us to stay caught up in duality, confused about who we are, confused about our identity and reality. That's not perfect love's plan for awakening. Perfect love's plan for awakening is to awaken us fully from the dream and return us home. We go back home, we leave this world behind. Again, to critique that talk, Rupert Spira was going, oh, well, there's no finish line. This is endless. There's an endless process of learning and relearning. And well, at some point, surely we want it to end. Like, what, you're just going to keep learning and growing and you just carry on, you know, and you'll incarnate time after time, and you'll keep that process going endlessly. That just feels a bit futile. Like, at what point do you awaken fully to, okay, I'm actually in the truth now, and I rest in God, and I rest in that truth eternally. And that's really the message of the great masters in the perennial philosophy, that there is an alternate reality, and you can access it. You can fully merge with that. You can become one with that reality. You become one with the Father. And then all illusions disappear. And there's complete salvation or awakening from all of your illusions. That's what salvation means. Not, well, you'll just carry on in the world endlessly, and when this lifetime's over, you'll come back and you'll do the whole process again and again. And no, you know, the perennial philosophy is saying, no, you can actually escape from time and space. You can get off the wheel of the cycle of birth and death and the wheel of suffering, and find this state of heaven, kingdom of heaven, as Yeshua called it, or nirvana, as the Buddha called it, the absolute essence, the Brahman, the presence, you know, whatever you want to call it, that is perfect and is whole and complete. And in that state, you come home. You're whole and complete, and there's nothing else to do. There's no more learning to be done at that point, because you've awakened fully to who you are, and you just rest in that being. This is what Yeshua's teaching us. That's pure non-dualism. These other teachings are a version of duality, which are spurious in my, and they won't take you the whole way home. I'm not saying they can't be helpful, but at some point you have to choose. You know, you have to overcome this fundamental split in mind and make a clear-cut choice, which is what the Course is asking us to do over and over and over again. You know, there's barely a lesson or a section of the text that goes by where he's not bringing this choice again to our awareness and saying you must choose, which is why I like the Course, because he's making it very clear and very explicit what we have to do in order to fully awaken. And he's not leaving us in some kind of halfway house of, well, we're going to be on an endless exploration forever by following this path, and we'll never get home. We'll never, you know, arrive at a state where everything is perfect. It's just going to be endless learning and growth. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, no, you will, you know, but you will get there when you've fully made up your mind, when you've said, I've had enough of the dream and enough of duality, and I'm willing to let that all go and not entertain it anymore. That's when you'll fully awaken to the pure non-dual truth. So it'll take as long as it takes for you to fully let go of your belief in the illusion of a separate self and all of its projections. And that's the work. You know, that's not an easy overnight process generally. Although, again, it could be. Someone like Ramana kind of seemed to get it in one go, but then he may have had many lifetimes. It might have been his kind of 100th advanced lifetime of spiritual practice, and then, you know, finally he was ready. We don't know. What we do know is that we can make a choice right now in every moment, and you can make a clear-cut choice for God, and therefore you must let go of the ego and all of its ways. So you renounce the world, you relinquish the world. You say none of it really means anything. None of it has any purpose or meaning or value, and I'm willing to, you know, to accept that. And that's what this mind training is helping you to do, systematically and progressively. Which is why I think, you know, this is, in my view, undoubtedly the you know, a path that will work, and it's the best path that I've found for this, because it's very direct. It's a very direct, clear, simple teaching. It's not easy to do, make no mistake, but at least there's clarity. You know exactly what he's asking you to do. There's no wishy-washy, well, it's sort of this, a bit of this, and a bit of this, and you can kind of keep your ego going. You can kind of maintain a belief in duality and then continuous growth. And evolution. No, it's not saying that. It's very clear cut. Your job is to accept it, and that's all. And nothing else. Just, accept this and merge into it. And that's what the mind training is designed to do. Every lesson, I'm pure formless awareness, is a statement of pure non-dual awareness. This is who you are, and there's nothing else. I accept my part in God's plan for salvation. Okay, I fully accept it. God's plan is to awaken me fully. It means I got to relinquish all of my separate self and on all of its illusions. That's, all of these are statements that take us into the experience of that non-dual awareness. And there's no compromise in it ever in the course. You might say, oh, well, we could use a compromise approach to mind body in treatment. He says that once, in relation to a patient who's not really open to the at-one-ment. But he's not saying that, that's any kind of permanent measure. It's just to help them temporarily because they're not open to the at-one-ment. So maybe they need a bit of magic to kind of help them to be a bit more open, to open up a bit. That's what he's saying. But he's not compromising on the fundamental, basis of the teaching ever. Which means that it's a teaching you can trust. Okay, it's very clear cut, and I'm not confused about what it's saying. I've just got to apply it rigorously, as rigorously as I possibly can. Okay, so I am spirit, or I'm pure formless awareness, and I will accept. Notice I changed it to I accept. So I will accept implies future. I accept says I accept it now.
Yeah.
So it's subtle, it's an important difference. I accept it now as bringing it into the now. I will implies some kind of future acceptance. So again, these subtle nuances of language, that's why we change it. To make it more direct. The idea with the translations is to make it a more direct experience of this awareness that he's pointing to. So the words will take you in to that experience directly. And that's the one thing I did agree with them in the podcast. They're saying it's a direct experience that's required. Yes, you're not going to know this unless you experience the truth for yourself directly. But there are ways to awaken. Meditation and using words can be helpful as pointers to help facilitate that direct experience.
Yeah.
Which is why we have the lessons.
Yeah.
And so that's why we practice the lessons, because they are good pointers to that direct experience. Okay. So any other thoughts on these two, Elaine? Short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, no, to the point.
But
yeah.
really, profound. You see how, we spent 20 minutes discussing just a few lines. They point you to a very deep, rich truth that you can, you could explore it for hours discussing. But let's explore it in meditation, because the whole point of direct experience is to actually experience it, not just talk about it. So we'll do a meditation on it. That'll take us to about 3 o'clock, and then we'll have some time for the text.
Yeah.
Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on when you want to go.
Yeah.
As I said, I don't have a time limit, so I could carry on until 4. All right, so let's do a 20-minute med on this. So let's just make yourself comfortable. So sitting comfortably with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. And cup your hands in your lap. And close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So nice deep breath in, clench the sphincter muscle. And just feel this energy rising up. Into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. And scan your mind now. In this calm, quiet, peaceful state. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on. Maybe some residual thoughts from the morning that you carried over. Anything that doesn't feel quite right. Could be a little bit of irritation with something that's happened. A little bit of anxiety, fear, sadness, anger in any forms that could look like frustration or irritation, ranging to intense rage. You notice all of this, breathe into it again. So you're just breathing in this spacious awareness, what we call pure formless awareness, and say to yourself, I am spirit or pure formless awareness. I am pure formless awareness. I am the extension of this pure formless awareness. So breathe this in to every pore and every cell and every muscle of your body, every part of your mind and every fiber of your being. Say to yourself, no body can contain my pure formless awareness or impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. No body can contain my pure formless awareness. Impose on me any kind of limitation. God created not, that's the original. Our translation is a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. Pure formless awareness is by definition not aware of any limitations because it's pure and formless. There are no limits, there are no blocks, no variations in that awareness, hence pure formless. So if I am just pure formless awareness and nothing else, then I must be whole. This is my true nature. There is nothing else. No other thoughts and emotions can exist. And no body can contain this awareness. So breathe in and just open your mind to this purity of this awareness. And experience it. Direct experience. of the truth. And you exhale. And you blow it away. Rest in this direct experience of the truth. I am pure, formless awareness. Say that to yourself and sink inwards. To this awareness. You can experience this awareness right now, not in the past or the future. It's not to come. I will one day be this awareness. I've had this awareness in the past, but I can't get back there. No, it's I am it. I am that I am. It's the first recorded name of God in the Bible. Moses asked this presence that spoke to him in his mystic experience of the burning bush and told him to go back to free his people. I said, well, who's telling me this? Who should I say send me? I am that I am. I am pure formless awareness. That I am. I'm just that awareness. That is the presence that spoke to him. That's the original name of God. Pure awareness. Beyond the body. How can this pure formless awareness be limited to a body? Which is by definition beyond the body, because it is formless, no form. It cannot be contained in form if it is pure formless awareness. The name, translated name we use, makes it very clear the nature of spirit, what it is. And no body can contain my pure formless awareness, nor impose on me a limitation of which pure formless awareness is not aware. So just rest in this knowledge. This is indeed knowledge. To be in pure formless awareness is a state of knowledge. And you accept in this knowledge that God's plan or perfect love's plan for salvation or awakening is the only plan. There is no other way. What can my function be but to accept the message of perfect love, the word of God or message of perfect love, which has extended me. So in the original, who has created me for what I am and will forever be, which has extended me as I truly am and will forever be. I'm extended by love as I am. If I am like the source, my source, then I must also be perfect love. The perfect extension, perfect love is my nature. I am the son or the extension of that loving source, that loving awareness. I am that awareness, in other words, and there's no difference between my awareness and the source's awareness, the highest level of experience. Every master, spiritual masters, come to realize that there is no difference between the source and its extension. They are one awareness. So claim this awareness right now. Claim it right now. And just sink into it, sinking inward and deeper and deeper. As you continue to watch the breath. In and out through your nose. Observe breath flowing into the nostrils. Subtle sensations of the breath flowing into your nose. And out of your nose. Notice the subtle sensations on the tip of your nose and the area between your nose and your upper lip. It's this little area, and you notice the very subtle sensation as you breathe in. So keep your mind calm and quiet, empty, open, spacious. Can't experience pure formless awareness in a cluttered mind by definition. You must open your mind up to it to be spacious. So sink into this spacious awareness, pure formless awareness, we call it, for a minute or two of deep silence. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Really nothing else to think about. Just stay in this awareness, the pure formless awareness that you are. Give yourself permission to know this state. Experiencing it fully, wholly, and completely for the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. So I am pure formless awareness, and rest in that awareness for the next 2 minutes. So just gently coming back from this deep connected state. Bring your mind back into an awareness of your body and the breath and the senses in the world. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Some flow of air in through the nostrils. You pause at the top of the inhale. You scan your mind. And you notice any thoughts, emotions, any related body sensations going on. Anything that feels at all unpleasant. It negates this deep state of awareness that hopefully you experienced last few minutes. Just be aware of that, and a nice deep breath in. Just remind yourself that I am pure formless awareness, and I accept the plan of this awareness, God's plan or perfect love's plan for my awakening to this awareness. I accept it right now. That plan means that I just need to let go of anything that negates my true awareness. It's the only plan that's ever going to work. So exhale and just blowing away any of these dark clouds, like, isn't there like clouds, just blown away with the breeze of your breath. Exhale them out. Notice how the air flows out, the chest and the stomach suck back in. And then you rest the bottom of the exhale in state of perfect peace and clarity. Say, I am pure, formless awareness. If you can get even a glimpse of that awareness, a tiny taste of that awareness, will open your mind in time for the whole awareness, all it to be restored, flood into your mind and become your entire awareness. There is no other awareness. So rest in this deep awareness for a few moments. Notice that this awareness still underlies the body. So notice the weight of your body, but this awareness is still there underlying that perception. Notice what you're feeling with your body and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth and a smell in your nose. And just what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. And just notice all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. Not illusions, showing the truth is true. And you anchor the state in. Intention to stay in the state. And the rest of the session, the afternoon and the evening. So it is said, so it is done. Practice today's lesson to help you to practice this. Keep you topped up and keep you in tune with this higher awareness. Sent you a couple of breath breaks in the program to enable you to do that. So listen to just a 2-minute breath break to top you up and restore your mind to this pure formless awareness that you are. Don't let your mind drift away into illusions for too long. So on count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a moment to look around. Observing the various objects in the room around you without attachment. Just noticing that underlying your perception of that object is an awareness. It's pure awareness that you accessed hopefully quite deeply in the last 25 minutes is still there. Look at another object, notice that same awareness still there. You can close your eyes briefly. Open your eyes. And so rest in this awareness. Notice how peaceful and restful this awareness is. Sensations, sense perceptions can still come in, but none of them really disturb this deeper awareness. So you're learning that this awareness is paramount and fundamental to your life, to your existence, and that you prefer this awareness. You'd like to stay connected to this awareness and let your life unfold within this awareness, rather than departing from it and covering it over with all kinds of ridiculous, foolish ideas and emotions. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the first part of the session. Okay, so let's go into some text. So we've got about 40 minutes or so, Elaine, if you want to go at 22.
Yeah.
A few paragraphs of text. Okay, so
How many is there? How many paragraphs?
8, I think. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Seven paragraphs.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we can get it done in 45 minutes. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so screen. Okay. So just make it a bit bigger. Is that big enough?
Yeah.
This one is called Sharing Perception with the Holy Spirit. Section 7 of chapter 14 we're on to. Translated into alternative language, that title is Sharing Perception with the Remembrance of Perfect Love. So in other words, that remembrance is going to be perceiving for you. Let's see what he has to say. Okay, so let's read that. We'll just go to the alternative. Maybe we get all of it done. Let's look at the translation before we do that. So darkness and light are the key concepts in this paragraph. Light we translate as pure formless awareness, and darkness is negative or negative awareness. But say it as negative awareness, because really darkness negates pure formless awareness. An awareness that covers that over. Okay, so let's go straight into alternative then. What do I want?
What do I want? Pure formless awareness or negative awareness? Knowledge or ignorance are mine, but not both. Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For their separation is only in my awareness, and they are reconciled by union, as I am. In union, everything that is not real must disappear, for truth is union. As negative awareness disappears in pure formless awareness, so arrogance fades away when knowledge dawns.
Ignorance, that is. No?
Oh,
but arrogance would probably
ignorance.
fade as well. Ignorance.
Oh,
The
ignorance.
arrogant, yeah, it was interesting
Yeah.
Freudian stuff there, but the arrogant are generally ignorant. So arrogance is a form of ignorance.
Ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Yet the perception must be without deceit, or otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. So it's just saying between the two, the negative awareness and the pure formless awareness. One is knowledge and the other is ignorance, but not both.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful teaching. The Holy Spirit's amazing. Because we're just talking about exactly the point. In our initial part of the discussion, I was talking about that podcast, and the only issue I had with it was they weren't trying to reconcile these opposites. Opposites must be brought together to say, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and you'll leave that domain for the scientists, and then the domain of non-duality belongs to God, and somehow we'll keep that split going. It's just dualism. They must be brought together, and one will remain, because they cannot both stand. Both are telling us about reality. They are opposite views of reality. They both can't be true. So one must be false and one must be true. We must bring them together, and then we must make our decision on our choice. For truth is union. So the union is not of opposites and saying both of them become true and somehow we try and fudge that. When we bring them together, the one must be discarded or let go of, and the other one are fully accepted and embraced. That's how you do this. Not by some kind of dissociation. Oh, well, we'll just kind of leave that be and we'll leave that be, and they kind of stay in their separated state. There's no reconciliation and there's no true union there. And that's exactly what he's saying, just to reiterate, that point. So that it's interesting synchronicity, how the Holy Spirit comes with exactly the right message. Because this, obviously it wasn't pre-planned. It's just, this is what happens. That's when you know that the Holy Spirit is with you and is using this session and all of it to teach the truth. Where ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. So just using terms like knowledge and ignorance to denote the opposite perception, opposite thought systems and realities. Knowledge is pure formless awareness, knowing experientially that that's all that there really is, and ignorance is ignorance of pure formless awareness, and thinking therefore that other things are real instead of it. And I think the key point here as well, down to number 7 and 8, perception is the medium by which this translation from ignorance to knowledge happens, by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. You have to start by changing your perception, but that perception must be without deceit. Otherwise, it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. So, for instance, if you say, well, it's okay to kind of keep these so-called realities separate. I can have, scientific materialist paradigm on the one side and non-dual awareness on the other, and the one belongs to Caesar and the other one belongs to God, and I kind of keep them separate, then there's a level of deceit there, because you can't keep them both in your mind because they contradict each other. You must decide between them, because there's a clear contradiction between them. This is what he's saying. Otherwise, we just stay in ignorance, and it's not helping us in our search for truth. Okay, so any other thoughts on that, Lane?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Opening paragraph to reiterate what we're saying. So let's go on to number 2 then. Read this in the alternative. It's just nothing much to translate here at all, actually. Search for truth. It's all about truth, so truth just remains truth.
Yeah. The search for truth is only the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is. It can neither be lost nor sought nor found. It is there whenever I am. Wherever I am, being within me. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to me, within me. Yet it can be, where am I?
Number 5.
If I hide it, right. Yet it can be recognized, unrecognized, real or false to me. If I hide it, it becomes unreal to me because I hide it and surround it with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which I have erected my insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. Yet I cannot know this for by hiding truth in fear, I see no reason to believe that the more I look at fear, the less I perceive it, and the clearer what it conceals becomes. So,
what's he saying here?
So our search for truth, we have to be honest and search for everything that interferes with this truth, which of course is the fear. But it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false. But if we hide it, it becomes unreal because we've surrounded it with fear.
And then we must look at it. Yeah, and he's saying, look at your fear. Because if you really look at it, you start to deconstruct it. You start to see that it's not real. What are you really fearing? Fear is always associated with the body, with this world and conditions in this world, and your personal identity, very much wrapped up in the body because it's only the body that can be hurt. And the more you look at that whole construct and start to question it, the more the fear dissipates. You realize it's just It's just all part of a construct in the mind. And then ultimately, I can see beyond the fear to pure formless awareness, perfect love. So we must look at the fear. We can't ghost over it. Metaphysical ghosting is that, well, none of it exists, but I don't really want to look at it and have the discomfort of doing that and looking at it and then working through it and letting it go by working through it. Okay. So we must, I think the key point here is we must look at it in order to undo it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on that one?
It's very clear. Mm-hmm.
All right, so go to number 3 then.
It is not possible to convince the unknowing that they know. From their point of view, it is not true. Yet it is true because pure formless awareness of perfect love knows it. These are clearly opposite viewpoints on what the unknowing are. The pure formless awareness of perfect love, unknowing, is impossible. It is therefore not a point of view at all, but merely a belief in something that does not exist. It is only this belief that the unknowing have, and by it they are wrong about themselves. They have defined themselves as they are not, as they were not extended. Their extension was not a point of view, but rather a certainty. Uncertainty brought to certainty does not retain any conviction of reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Translations, God is pure formless awareness of perfect love, and creation is extension. The extension is not a point of view, but rather a certainty. So we've defined ourselves as we were not created, which creates enormous, internal conflict and stress. If we deny fundamentally what we are, then we're denying our own true nature, our very being.
Mm.
As he's saying, this is not a point of view. It's not perceptual. It's a fact. It's a certainty. Uncertainty brought to certainty does not retain any conviction of reality. Let's say that better. Say, I cannot retain any conviction of conviction that uncertainty as reality. When I bring it to certainty, that's what he's really saying. So the certainty of God is fundamental being, pure formless awareness of perfect love, we call it. If I bring that certainty into any situation, that certainty is fundamental reality, then any uncertainty as a result of denying that reality must disappear. All right. So thoughts on that, Elaine?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm.
Not possible to convince the unknowing that they know from their point of view. It's not true.
a bit sort
So
of
we don't
convoluted.
know the truth. And some, you'll know, if you're talking to people who are not on this path, when you talk about pure formless awareness or God or spirit, or any, often it's just like blankness. They're like, what are you talking about? Because from their point of view, the scientific materialist paradigm of, well, I'm a body and the only reality is what I can see, feel, touch, taste, and perceive in the body. That's my reality. Then that's what the world seems to tell me. But yet, pure formless awareness of perfect love is true. He's making the point that unknowing isn't actually possible. It's not a point of view at all, but merely a belief in something that does not exist. So the unknowing have believed in something that doesn't really exist and have enslaved them to it, enslaved themselves to it. It's only this belief that's the problem. By it, they are wrong about themselves. Okay, so happy to move on.
Yeah.
Number 4. Okay, not much to translate there, so go straight to the alternative. Our emphasis has been on bringing.
Our emphasis has been on bringing what is undesirable to the desirable. What I do not want to what I do not want to what I do. I consider what disassociation is. I will release that freedom. I will realize that freedom must come to me this way. Disassociation is a distorted process of thinking whereby two systems of belief which cannot coexist are both maintained. If they are brought together, their joint acceptance becomes impossible. But if one is kept in negative awareness from the other, their separation seems to keep them both alive and equal in their reality. Therefore, their joining becomes the source of my fear, for if they meet, I must withdraw acceptance from one of them. I cannot have them both, for each denies the other. Apart, I lose awareness of this fact, and I can firmly believe each of it is kept in a separate part of my mind. But when I bring them together, the fact of their complete incompatibility is instantly apparent. I will have to let go of one because the other is perceived in the same place.
It's exactly what we've been discussing. Isn't it just the perfect teaching? You can't make these two opposite thought systems work together. If you bring them together, then you see that they contradict each other and you must choose. And sort of setting them apart and saying, well, we'll leave neuroscience to the scientists and we'll leave non-duality to God and we'll somehow maintain that split is not resolving anything. You haven't resolved the issue at all. You just kept them apart. You have to bring them together, and then you see that they are completely incompatible, and therefore you must choose one or the other. And that choice is the essence of the awakening process. And when you let go of the one and you choose the other, you are choosing reality, true reality or false reality in that choice. And you're choosing who you are, and everything follows from that choice. Do you see that? Everything. You're choosing who you choose to be. You're choosing your reality, your identity, the seeming reality that you exist in, and everything hinges on that choice. That's why the ego doesn't want you to see the choice clearly and make the correct choice. Because you make that choice, it's game over for the ego. If you really mean it, and you say, okay, I'm actually done with trying to maintain these opposites in my mind. I understand that's never going to work. I'm going to bring them together and I'm going to choose correctly once and for all time. Then you can awaken from the whole dream and the ego can be undone. So it doesn't want you to do that. And even quite advanced teachers, the ego still got resistance. It doesn't want them to do that. To see it so clearly that they must make the ultimate choice and decide. Because that's game over then. That's end of separate self. And the ego will do anything it possibly can to maintain its separate self. It's very cunning in that. So these alternative views, alternative school of non-duality, one guy called it, and various ways that duality carries on are just spurious attempts by the ego to maintain its existence in our minds and not to really see this fundamental impulse for what it is. Because if you see it for what it is, you realize there's only one thing to do, right? There's only one way out of it. You must choose between the two and make a very clear-cut choice. You can't kind of choose both at the same time. Oh, well, I have, a bit of this one and a bit of that one, and that's somehow right. Because they are systems of thought based on a fundamental premise of reality, of who you are and what reality is, that are fundamentally irreconcilable because they tell you different things about yourself, about the nature of reality. That's why the light and the dark can't reconcile. The light drives out all darkness, and in the absence of light, there is darkness. So they are opposite realities. Yeah. The one denies the other by definition. We see that in the physical world. When we bring light in, let's say you go into a dark room, it's absolutely pitch black, no light. Well, what is that? Is that an actual condition of the room, or is it just an absence of light? The room has no light in it. You see, it's just an absence. Darkness is defined by the absence of light. Darkness has no positive quality of its own. Light has a positive quality. So there's light from the sun or light from an electric light, but it's shining something. It has a positive quality. It has an existence, whereas darkness is just the absence of that. Which again, then you see in this world, well, that's teaching us the truth. Light is really there. It has a positive quality, exists, and darkness is the absence of it. And if you turn on a light, or you open curtains and you allow the light in outside, then the darkness is gone because it can't exist in the presence of, the positive quality of light. It only exists in its absence. So they clearly contradict each other. You bring the lightness into the darkness and the darkness disappears. If you want to keep denying the light, then the darkness will seem to have reality. But that's only because of your continued denial of the light. And so, in a simple way, that simple example just proves what Yeshua is teaching us in this course. The light is real and exists, and the darkness doesn't really. Yeah, is that clear?
Yes.
Right. So I think read this one in both the original and the alternative. There's quite a bit to translate here. The Holy Spirit comes in quite a lot, God. So, and light. So read it line by line in both, if you can.
Yeah. Light cannot enter darkness when a mind believes in darkness and will not let it go. Pure formless awareness cannot enter negative awareness when I believe in negative awareness and will not let it go. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. What needs no protection does not defend itself. What needs no protection does not defend itself. Defense is of your making. Defense is of my making. God knows it not. Pure formless awareness of perfect love does not know it. The Holy Spirit uses defenses on behalf of truth only because you made them against it. And I'll have to move that one up so you can see it. Yeah. The remembrance of perfect love uses defenses on behalf of truth only because I made them against it. His perception of them according to his purpose merely changes them into a call for what you have attacked with them. Its perception of them according to its purpose merely changes them into a call for what I have attacked with them. Defenses, like everything you made, must be gently turned to your own good, translated by the Holy Spirit from means of self-destruction to means of preservation, preservation and release. Defense, like everything I made, must be gently turned to my own good, translated by my remembrance of perfect love, from means of self-destruction to means of preservation and release. His task is mighty, but the power of God is with him. Very good. Its task is mighty, but the power of perfect love is with it. Therefore, to him it is so easy that it was accomplished the instant it was given him for you. Therefore, to this remembrance it is so easy that it was accomplished the moment it was given this function. Do not delay in your return to peace by wondering how he can fulfill what God has given him to do. Do not delay in my return to peace by wondering how it can fulfill what pure formless awareness of perfect love was tasked. I just need it to strip a little bit. Tasked to it to do. And oops, I can't see the original. That's it. Leave that to him who knows. I leave that to the remembrance which knows. I leave that to this remembrance which knows. You are not asked to do mighty tasks yourself. I am not asked to do mighty tasks myself. You are merely asked to do the little he suggests you do, trusting him only to the small extent of believing that if he asks it, you can do it. I am merely asked to do the little Yeshua suggests I do, trusting it only to the small extent of believing that if it asks, I can do it. You will see how easily all that he asks can be accomplished. And then I will perceive how easily all that it asks can be accomplished. And from the top, pure formless awareness cannot enter negative awareness when I believe in negative awareness and will not let it go. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. What needs no protection does not defend itself. Defense of my making. Pure formless awareness of perfect love does not know it. The remembrance of perfect love uses defenses on my behalf of truth only because I made them against it. Its perception of them according to its purpose merely changes them into a call for what I have attacked with them. Defenses, like everything I made, must be gently turned to my own good, translated by my remembrance of perfect love from the means of self-destruction to means of preservation and release. Its task is mighty, but the power of perfect love is with it. Therefore, to this remembrance, it is so easy that it was accomplished the moment it was given this function. I do not delay in my return to peace by wondering how I can fulfill what pure formless awareness of perfect love has tasked it to do. I leave that to the remembrance which knows. I am not asked to do mighty tasks myself. I am merely asked to do the little Yeshua suggests I do, trusting it only to the small extent of believing that, if it asks it, I can do it. And then I will perceive how easily I can accomplish all that is asks. Well, it's saying the pure formless awareness can't enter this negative awareness. And the negative and when I believe in this awareness, negative awareness, I will not let it go. So yeah, finding it difficult to let go, because truth doesn't struggle with any ignorance, and love doesn't attack fear. So and it's not asking us to do much, just trust in our remembrance, which knows, and it's only just a little trust, and letting us know that whatever it asks us to do, we can accomplish it. This remembrance of perfect love, we have to put trust into it and learn to let go of the negative awareness.
Yeah. So have faith and trust this little, small voice, still small voice that remembers the truth and remembers perfect love and can interpret everything for you from that remembrance. Okay, so number 6, the Holy Spirit asks of you, but this. So the Holy Spirit will be the remembrance of perfect love. The Christ is your true self. Light is pure formless awareness. Darkness is negative awareness. So read it in the alternative.
Yeah. The remembrance of perfect love asks of me only that I bring to it every secret I have locked away from it. I open every door to it and ask it to enter my negative awareness and help me to let it go. At my request, it enters gladly. It brings pure formless awareness to negative awareness if I open my negative awareness to it. But it cannot look upon what I hide. It perceives for me, but unless I perceive with it, it cannot perceive for me. The vision of my true self is not for it alone, but for it with me. Therefore, I bring all my limited and secret thoughts to it and perceive them with it. It holds pure formless awareness, and I hold on to negative awareness. They cannot coexist when I perceive guided by it. Its judgment must prevail, and it will give this to me as I join my perception to its.
Okay, so what's he saying?
Was asking us to bring all our secrets to it that have been locked away, and just trust and to open up all doors to allow this pure formless awareness to enter. So at our request, it'll be there. It'll gladly enter. You're the open door of remove this negative awareness. We bring all
So
these
just give it the
negative.
invitation. Say, okay, you do this for me. I'm open to a different interpretation of everything. Which means I've got to let go of my existing interpretation to open myself to another interpretation. That's where the letting go comes in. Judgment must prevail. If I open to it, its judgment must prevail, and I'll start to make correct interpretations. I have correct perceptions. Give this to me as I join my perception to its. So you're really handing over this power to interpret reality to the Holy Spirit. That's what he's asking us to do, to the remembrance of perfect love, and say, I let go of that prerogative to interpret reality, and I'm going to let it do it for me. That's quite a massive step, isn't it? Well, it happens moment by moment in practice, but you're really saying, I'm not going to manage my life anymore. I've been the manager and controller of my life up to this point, but I'm renouncing that. I'm letting that go, and I'm asking this remembrance of this loving presence, which I've denied, but which is still there, to come back and to run my life for me instead. And that's what the Course is all about. It's that invitation. To extend that invitation continuously is the practice. So it's not a one-time invitation. It's moment by moment. Okay, and last paragraph. So just read from number 7 in the original alternative. The rest you can just read an alternative. So joining with it in perceiving is the way.
Joining with it in perceiving is the way in which I learn to share the interpretation of perception that leads to knowledge with it. I cannot perceive alone. Sharing perception with it, whom pure formless awareness of perfect love has given me, teaches me how to recognize what I perceive. It is in the recognition that nothing I perceive means anything alone. Perceiving with it will show me that all meaning, including mine, does not from double vision, but from the gentle fusing of everything into one meaning, one emotion, and one purpose. Pure formless awareness of perfect love has one purpose, which it shares with me. The single vision which the remembrance of perfect love offers me will bring this oneness to my mind with clarity and brightness so intense I could not wish for all the world not to accept what pure formless awareness of perfect love wants me to have. I perceive
So
my...
read number 7 to 9 in the original and the alternative.
The single vision which the Holy Spirit offers you will bring this oneness to your mind with clarity and brightness so intense you would not wish for all the world not to accept what God would have you have. And the single vision with the remembrance of perfect love offers me will bring this oneness to my mind with clarity and brightness so intense I could not wish for all the world not to accept what pure formless awareness of perfect love wants me to have. Am I reading the next, number 8?
8?
Yeah. Behold your will, accepting it as his, with all his love as yours. I perceive my awareness, accepting it as its, with all its love as mine. And
See my accepting as its, to how I perceive my pure formless awareness, accepting it as its, in other words, perfect love's, accepting as it. Perfect loves with all its love is mind. So, yeah, pointing us again to the very simple realization that I am that awareness. And that's my own true awareness, and there's no other awareness. Okay, and number 9.
All honor to you, through him, and through him unto God. All honor is to me through it, and through it to pure form awareness of perfect love.
Put in a simple verb here. All honor is given to me through it, and through it to pure formless awareness of perfect love. Through him unto God. So the glory, our glory is to merge our awareness, to accept this awareness as ours. That this is our own true awareness, and there is no other awareness. And that's what it means for the Father and the Son to be one, and to be finally reconciled. Is I come into the knowledge of this awareness. So awareness becomes my awareness, and there's nothing else. Okay. Makes sense. Then just read the summary just to summarize it all, and we can wrap it up there if you like.
Yeah. What do I want? Pure formless awareness or negative awareness? Knowledge or ignorance are mine to choose, but not both. Opposites must be reconciled through union. In union, all that is unreal disappears, for truth is union. As negative awareness dissolves in pure formless awareness, ignorance, fades with the dawn of knowledge. Perception brings ignorance to knowledge, but must be without deceit to help me to find truth.
Okay. Summarizing that in a sentence or two.
Well, pure formless awareness, and you've got the choice between the two, pure formless awareness or negative awareness, because they're the absolute opposite. The negative awareness dissolves, and the true pure formless awareness arises.
And it happens through perception. So transformation of perception is how that shift from ignorance to knowledge actually takes place.
The search for truth is about honesty, identifying what interferes with it. Truth exists within me. It cannot be lost, sought, or found. It can only be recognized or unrecognized. Hiding truth in fear makes it unreal to me. Beneath each cornerstone of fear lies hidden truth. By facing fear, its concealment becomes clear and truth emerges. So just, facing your fear, and the truth will emerge.
Yeah, very simple message, confront your fears. Every spiritual path really says this. Don't shy away, hide them. You need to go and look at your darkness, look at the fear. And the more you look at it and you shine your true awareness onto it, the more it dissipates, the more you see that the fear is not justified. And so it dissipates. But if you maintain it and you don't want to look at it, then you honor it, and it can grow to epic proportions in your mind. So we must look at our fear and bring the light of awareness into it, and that's bringing the light into the darkness. Okay, next one, convincing the unknowing of their knowledge.
Convincing the unknowing of the knowledge is impossible from their perspective, yet pure formless awareness, perfect love knows it. To pure formless awareness of perfect love, unknowing is impossible, merely a belief in something non-existent. This belief incorrectly defines individuals. Uncertainty brought to certainty loses all semblance of reality. I must emphasize it's placed on bringing the undesirable to the desirable, recognizing that freedom comes this way. Disassociation maintains incompatible belief systems separately, creating fear of their meeting. Their union reveals their incompatibility, necessitating the rejection of one. Apart, both beliefs seem real. Together, their incompatibility is clear. Again,
So what's saying there?
yeah. Well, you just have a choice. You've got the uncertainty of the negative awareness, or the certainty of the pure formless awareness where freedom is, and
yeah, and you can't dissociate them and say, oh well, we'll leave that there, like scientific materialism there, and we'll give to God what is God's, and somehow dissociate and maintain both of those realities, because they contradict each other. When you bring them into awareness jointly, you go, well, I can't accept both of these, because they contradict each other. So, which is true? It seems obvious, and yet it's not that obvious. As I said, I listened to that podcast, and what happened at the end of it was just dissociation. So yeah, well, we'll just leave we'll leave neuroscience to the neuroscientists, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's, and these will forever remain separate. Well, that's not a message of non-duality, is it? That's duality. There's no resolution. So, and he's a very experienced non-dual teacher, and yet making this error of dissociation, which is exactly what Yeshua is saying, don't make. No. It's why follow the course, because who you're studying is the most awakened master that's ever walked the earth. Yeshua was phenomenal in what he accomplished. His credentials are impeccable. As far as we know, no one else has resurrected or raised the dead or done those sorts of healings, and his final resurrection is just so extraordinarily different from everything that this world is, that that's his credential. Look, you obviously had transcended all thought of this world, and that's the only reason why you could do it. He didn't believe in death anymore. None of it. The death, the body, it just wasn't real to him, and that's why he could resurrect. So many other teachers who still in the human form struggling to free themselves from their own egos, and that includes myself. I'm not excluding myself. We not at the level of Yeshua yet, but we must learn from the best, learn from the highest. That's the idea. All right, so let's carry on. Pure formless awareness cannot enter negative awareness.
Pure formless awareness cannot enter negative awareness. If I cling to negative awareness, truth and love do not struggle or defend, for defense is my own miscreation. The remembrance of perfect love repurposes defenses into calls for what I have attacked. Defenses transformed by the remembrance of perfect love become the means of preservation and release. Just pure formless awareness isn't going to enter if you're clinging on to negative awareness. Truth and love do not struggle or defend.
Yeah. It's worth remembering, because it's very tempting to go into defensiveness with the ego. But if I'm defenseless and I'm innocent, then I don't need to, because the truth is the truth. And if it's just the truth is true and nothing else is true, it doesn't really need a defense. I just can rest in the knowing that it's true, irrespective of what anyone else says or does. I may say something or do something, but I don't necessarily need to, because it doesn't need defense. That's something I've struggled with personally, because one tends to want to speak up and say something, but that's not necessarily always the wise course of action. Just resting in the truth can be the best defense you can possibly make. I'm just not going to be moved by any of these arguments. So a guy who had done Vipassana quite seriously. He was kind of part of the admin team, and he recounted a story where his father had been very angry with him and was ranting at him. And he said, prior to having done Vipassana, he would have reacted, but he just sat there and he observed him, and he observed the sensations coming up, the emotions coming up, sensations in his body, and he didn't offer a defense. He didn't say anything. And he said, I just looked at him like this in this presence for a minute or two while he's ranting away, and then he said it was amazing. He just stopped. And he started calming down, and so that's exactly how that could play out in practice. A practical example of not having to defend. All right, there's three paragraphs to go. So, remembrance of perfect love asked me to reveal every hidden secret. Are you there, Elaine, or you took a call?
2 seconds, John. I'll just be a second. It's just making the arrangement. 2 seconds.
Okay, I'll read it. So the remembrance of perfect love asked me to reveal every hidden secret, inviting it into my awareness to help let it go. I'm writing these.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Okay. There we go. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. The remembrance of perfect love asks me to reveal every hidden secret, inviting these secrets into my awareness to help let it go. It brings pure formless awareness to negative awareness. When invited, it perceives for me, but I must also perceive with it. Bringing my limited and secret thoughts to it allows its judgment to prevail.
Oh. So again, he's saying just bring the darkness to the light. Don't hide these things. Don't ghost over the top of them. Metaphysical ghosting or spiritual bypassing. Oh well, it's all an illusion. I don't really want to look at it. I'm saying you must look at it. And that's the way you undo it. Okay, sharing perception with remembrance of perfect love.
Sharing perception with the remembrance of perfect love leads to knowledge. Alone perception means nothing shared with it. Perception reveals true meaning. The gentle fusion of everything into one purpose, one emotion, and one meaning is the vision offered by pure formless awareness of perfect love. This single vision brings oneness to my mind, helping me embrace pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah. Yeah, what's he saying there?
Just sharing this perception with the remembrance of perfect love leads to the knowledge. So the gentle fusion of everything into one purpose, one emotion, one meaning is the vision offered by this pure formless awareness of perfect love. So this single vision brings oneness to our minds and helping us to embrace this pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, exactly. So a singular vision. Let thine eye be single, said the Bible. A single awareness guiding you. That's what all great spiritual teachings are saying. And the more you come into that awareness, the more you wake up to who you really are, because that awareness is what you are. Okay, and then just a key message, one paragraph just to summarize the whole thing.
I must reconcile my conflicting beliefs by bringing pure formless awareness into my negative awareness. This will help me to let go of my belief in separation and unite all my perceptions with the help of the remembrance of perfect love into a single vision that reveals my inherent oneness with pure formless awareness of perfect love. There you go.
Yeah, very nice.
Yes, it is.
So you bring the darkness to the light, and if I have conflict, it's because I haven't brought these two together, seen their incompatibility.
Mm.
When I bring them together, it brings a single vision. This reveals my inherent oneness with pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is what I really am. And that's the merging of the Son with the Father, the extension with this, with its source into one whole awareness, which is our, our original awareness, which has never really disappeared. It's just been covered over. So the same message, it's giving us the same message pretty much every section and every lesson, just different angles on it, different language. So again, he's saying, I think the key one here for me was bring the two together, bring the darkness to the light, and the darkness cannot continue anymore. And don't dissociate. You can't, you can't do that. That's splitting your mind. You must bring them together, see that they're incompatible, and then make the key choice. That's the resolution. And that's what pure non-dual teaching implies. Okay, so any other thoughts, Elaine? Is that good?
Yeah, no, that's a good session. Yes, good session.
Good session. Yeah, we got the picks done, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So yeah, we can do another session tomorrow if you like. Tomorrow could do evening if you like. Tomorrow evening.
Yeah,
That
that's
work?
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that will work. Yes. Yeah, that's good.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay. See you then.
That's great. See you then. Thank you, Jono.
All right. Thanks,
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye for now. Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you to Elaine for joining. If you enjoyed the session, then if you're not already a subscriber, do hit the subscribe button. You can also head over to lifebuild.com. You can see that URL there in the background. Just put a .com on that, or the links below in the YouTube video box, comments box, and you can sign up to receive a daily inspirational quote that I shared up front with some commentary that I also shared at the beginning of the session, along with the daily lesson from the workbook and a meditation to help you to practice it. So check it out, lifebuild.com, and you'll also be invited to join these sessions via the Telegram messages, so you can join in these live calls if you'd like to. So check it out, lifebuild.com, go sign up, and I hope to see you on the inside soon. Thanks for watching and listening, and namaste, which means the light in me, which knows no opposite, acknowledges and honors that same non-dual light awareness, pure formless awareness in you. Wishing you much love, peace, and joy in that light of true awareness.